And welcome to We Love History Live. During this lockdown experience, we wanted to use this live stream event to give you a bit of an insight into some of our work here at Historic Environment Scotland, and also to give you the opportunity to ask us some questions. So this is a Q&A session. If you would like to send in your questions, you can do so. All you need to do is to log on to YouTube using your Google account and fire away any questions that you have on Great Scottish Interiors. So, Great Scottish Interiors. This is a brand new online exhibition that was launched on the Historic Environment Scotland website today, and it uses some of HES's amazing archive images to take you through 6 of Scotland's most distinctive and characterful domestic interiors. What really, I think, prompted this exhibition really was our current shared experience of lockdown. I'm sure you'll all be aware that we've all been told to varying degrees to stay at home. And this has definitely influenced the way we look at our interiors. I know that a lot of us have been struggling with requests and figuring out how to work from home, how to exercise from our homes. I know a lot of people have been using this time to think about undertaking home improvements. A lot of people have just basically been staring at the walls. And also, we think that interiors really, they can tell us a lot about a person. I think one of the really fun things about this time is seeing people on the news and on TV and being able to look over their shoulders and see what their homes look like. We'd never normally get a glimpse into somebody's personal life like that. So to discuss all of this and more, we have got a very special guest to talk about all of this. It is James Turner, our casework team. So James is a historic building specialist. He works with some of Scotland's finest buildings day in, day out, and we're very lucky to have him. He has been really influential in terms of developing our guidance on managing change in interiors. And critically, he has been a driving force behind the Great Scottish Interiors exhibition. So without further ado, hi, James.
Hi, Alison. I think that's probably the nicest intro anybody's ever given me. So £25 will be slipped under your door.
Yes.
You'll have to wait for obviously 2 days to check it's not infected, but
yeah, well, they'll quarantine it.
Yeah.
So James, on the top, I've tried to introduce the subject a little bit, but I'd really be keen to hear your thoughts on what you think interiors actually tell us about people.
Yeah, sure, Alison. It's been really interesting working on this project. We've been doing it in isolation in our own homes, whereas normally we'd be doing it in the office and we'd be easily able to share ideas. But in a way, doing it in this kind of contained space has given us a lot of time to really think about it, and also to think about our own spaces and our own places.
We can just see a little picture of your interior just now. Obviously, we're looking at, well, all of us, I'm sure, are looking over your shoulder, but here's a close-up on the screen of your house.
Yes, that's my sitting room. So, and my little dog Fred, who is glued to that sofa. But I think the big things that have come out that we've kind of thought about have been very much an emotional attachment to your interior, very much identity, very much a connection with the past. So it's a real touchstone and a kind of almost a connector to the past. So it's no surprise when we get heirlooms or hand-me-downs and people use them and feel very connected to that person, even though they're not there anymore. It's a very nice way to still keep their memory alive. It's kind of a tangible connection. And also it can really influence us in other ways. I don't know if you want a quick little personal story, but
yeah.
So I didn't know my grandfather or my great-grandfather or any of that side of the family. They'd all died before I was born, but they're all foresters. They all worked for the Duke of Buccleuch, and through them came, through my grandmother and my mother, love of trees, surprise, surprise, love of countryside, love of landscape, and I've really run with that. And also talking about emotional connection and attachment, I've got 3 very small little prints of my great-grandfather standing outside a massive tree, and he's super chuffed about that. But for me that's really important, because it's a bridge to the past and a bridge to somebody I never knew, but somebody whose DNA and very being is alive in me. And I also inherited quite a normal ish plaster cast ivy leaf, which used to hang above my grandmother's spare bedroom door. But again, that's really, I love that, because that's a connection with her as well.
Just, I guess, talking about connections with the past, obviously here at Historic Environment Scotland, we have this incredible archive of images of some of Scotland's kind of best historic buildings, and we went through them for this exhibition to really kind of pick out interiors. And I just wondered whether you could tell us a little bit about that selection process and what the defining features of these interiors that we've chosen are.
Yeah, of course. I think we both agreed that sort of the number one criterion was personality. And of places that spoke of the people who've been there before, people that have shaped them, the traditions, the identity. There's something called behavioural residue, which is the kind of amalgamation of value, choices and behaviour, which seep almost unconsciously into places. And through going there, you kind of get an experience, an understanding, and access about these places, but also very much about the people who inhabited them, the people who built them, the people who changed them. So it's very much driven by person focused.
Yeah, just let's kick off and look at a few, because they are really, as you say, really interesting and characterful places that do kind of give us a bit of an insight into life back certainly in the 19th century. Hill House is the first interior in the exhibition.
I mean, Hill House is amazing. Built for a publisher, and also built in Macintosh and the publisher, the owner, the person who commissioned it, worked together. It was quite a joint scheme in terms of how they exchanged ideas. Apparently, the owner had seen the School of Art in Glasgow and was like, I have to have this architect. He needs to design my house. And out of that was born this amazing creation. I found a quote when Macintosh gave the house over to the owner, you know, the big presentation, cut the ribbon, give the key. And Macintosh said, here is the house. It's not an Italian villa. It's not an English mansion house. It's not a Swiss chalet or a Scotch castle. It's a dwelling house. And I just thought that was a very fitting summary of Hill House, because even though it's quite a smart, avant-garde, eclectic building, it also very much has at its heart that it's a place to live.
So that home life is really important, and that incredible drawing room as well, that is sort of split into different sections where you can imagine different activities kind of taking place in there. There's a piano bit, and then there's a beautiful fireplace to kind of relax next to. Very kind of, you know, very homely, and unafraid to kind of be demonstrative of that.
As you said yourself, Alison, very difficult to clean.
Yeah, true. I take that.
A lot of hoovering and polishing.
Lots of hoovering and polishing. I doubt the Blackies will have done that themselves.
No, I don't.
Moving on, the second interior that we looked at was very different. It was a crofting cottage out in the Western Isles on Lewis, called the Arnall, Arnall, which is a crofting settlement that we currently at Historic Environment Scotland look after.
I mean, how can you not fall in love with this place? And also, I guess, for people of my age, so let's say mid-40s and more, I'm sure you had relatives who you visited as a kid who were settled into big comfy armchairs like that in front of fireplace. So it has a very nostalgic feeling to it, very much sort of the past, but it feels very, I mean, life must have been tough, we know that, but it feels very cozy. They're kind of hunkered down into it. It's quite late, as you yourself pointed out, 1930s, to be detailing box beds, which is the image with the curtains with curtains surrounding it. Yes, it has that very vernacular, very traditional, but also because it's a property in care, it's got a real educational resource to it as well. It's a place where we can come and learn, and it's been kind of frozen in aspect. It's been frozen in the 60s, am I correct with that?
Yeah, there are some really lovely kind of 60s retro features in there, like an old wall calendar.
The wall calendar is brilliant.
Yeah. really fantastic to see that kind of artifact there, and it really, you know, it is a certain style of living that, you know, what is very 60s, and that's lovely. Um, and um, and yeah, and obviously I think we can't not talk about Arnold and its relationship as well with the landscape outside, and the kind of wider crofting community.
I guess it's quite important, isn't it, the evolution, that
Mhm.
that sort of how innovation came. So they moved from the black house to what we're looking at here, or we're looking at the interior, which is the White House, which at the time, you know, people were being moved into more sanitary, well, were given better sanitary provision, bigger windows, better heating, but there was a resistance for people to move out of their, which is really
Black
interesting
houses,
for
yeah.
us, that sense of identity, that we're actually, this is our home, we've been here for a very long time, we don't want to leave. You know, you see that, we see that with slum clearances in big cities, and people were very wedded to where they wanted to stay because of that sense of identity and place and self-identity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's, yeah, it's fascinating. And I guess, again, just to switch it up a bit, it would be lovely now to look at Ardkinglass House, which is again very, very different. It has its very own individualistic style, and I'm sure people would love to hear more about that.
Arkin is 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 quite surreal in a really good way. So it's almost got a coat. It's wearing a coat of historicism, and it feels like an ancient keep that has been there for hundreds of years. But it's early 20th century, and Lorimer, Sir Robert Lorimer, was a master of working with traditional materials, traditional craftsmanship, amazing traditional craftsmanship, in also other European countries, especially Holland. He went to Holland quite a few times, and obviously was very taken with Delft tiles, which we can see here in the mantelpiece, which feature a lot in his image of a cheeky monkey, a Rijksmuseum, and sketching. So the Rijksmuseum is their big art museum in Amsterdam, and he was sketching away, and so taken by these figurative, they're called nulwiet, beautiful set pieces, beautiful, which is just outrageous, piping and plumbing and cavity walls, rib shower or a cage shower. It's called a rib shower because, or needle shower, I'm sorry, needle shower, because it can shout out, force out needles onto certain parts of your body, like your liver, spleen, or kidneys. Very,
Oh,
very therapeutic.
like in a sort of massage way.
Yeah. You still there, Alison? I've lost contact.
are back after a brief technical induced intermission and here to resume talking about our great Scottish interiors. And the next building we were really keen to profile with you is High Sunderland, which is this incredible modernist 60s home. James, I know that you'd love to talk about this one.
Sorry to correct you, Alison, but it's late 1950s. But what's that between friends? A couple of years. So, so this place is amazing. I had the great. I was very fortunate to visit it when its owner was still living here, Mr. Bernard Klein. It was through work I was visiting, and bowled us over about it and made us think, gosh, these people really knew what they were doing. It was a combination act between and painter, as we can see there, and all round just great collector, artist, brilliant taste, or very interesting taste, and commissioned a very brave building for 1957 in Scotland, in between Galashiels and Selkirk. Which kind of looks like it'd be at home in the west coast of America, with its sunken lounge and its abundance of materials and ceramics, and it really was influenced by modernist design.
Really lovely. We've had a question in from Sammy.
Okay.
And Sammy wants to know, she's kind of interested in the status of all of these interiors, whether, you know, you think it's better to have a kind of museum style setup, or whether it's more interesting to look at a home that was as it's left by its occupants.
Yeah.
I mean, Sunderland is a great one.
It's a balanced approach, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There are properties where, because of the cultural significance, because of the importance, so let's say Abbotsford, with Slot or other places which have famous figures attached to it, but they don't have to be famous. But it's a balance, because what we've said as well and what we've seen is the interest of interiors is often how they evolve and how they changed and how they're managed. And through good understanding of your building and what are its special features, what's really interesting about it, and again, it's one size doesn't fit all for things like this. Bernard Klein, we recorded it. That's one of our Historic Environment Scotland. We go out and record places and interiors where we feel they need to be archived for people to come and look at them in the future, because they represent such a singular view of a place and singular entity. And High Sunderland was such. That's why we went out and recorded it, because it was everything that this man had done and everything that was there spoke of him. It was all imbued and embedded with his taste, with his energy. It was quite, I mean, it's a very interesting place, and it was really interesting to find out that he actually had fashion shows there. So models came up from London and walked this amazing kind of catwalk, which you can see in this above the sunken lounge. And I can't remember, I might have made this up, but I think Mr. Klein told me that Twiggy herself walked up and down where we're seeing now. And then all these cool people would sit downstairs in that sunken lounge in sort of 1963, smoking pipes and cigars, and it must have been amazing.
Amazing. Let's talk about Gosford, which is perhaps the most over the top of the interiors that we selected for the exhibition. This seating area is something else. Tell me about it, James.
This is your all singing, all dancing Inglenook, but it's not really an Inglenook, is it? It's an amazing staircase to promenade up and down and show off your finery and wear your sash and have your tiara on. This is the Marble Hall, probably one of the most exuberant, opulent, outrageous buildings that went up in the 1890s. Sorry, my clock is just going to strike, talking of things inside places. And this really was a party palace. It really was just so lavish. And it reflects that end of an era almost. You know, we're coming up towards the First World War, we're coming up to social change. And you got these, you know, the last blowout basically of these kind of amazing spaces where money must have been no
objects.
Yeah.
Really, yeah. I'd love to have been around to have had a good party in the Marble Hall space in particular.
I think you and I might have been carrying trays behind the scenes. we might not be going up the stairs.
And finally, one of the more distinctive interior, well, they're all distinctive, but the next interior and final interior that we've looked at is the steading. So this incredible wooden interior made by Tim Stead. I wondered if you could share with me some of your thoughts about that.
Well, it kind of really sums up what we've been talking about all the way along about identity and really putting your mark on a place and a singular vision. So this man's created his art. His art has become his living space. His living space is his art. You know, it's one is the same. Beautiful organic materials. That sense of, you know, before his time. Not his time, but before recycling and sustainability, all those buzzwords we use now, this guy was doing it. He was creating this place that was just natural, built from natural materials, celebrating craft, celebrating woodwork, and swamps, which might be, you know, thousands and thousands of years old. So it was his craft is very interesting. And again, what Sammy, we've just let ourselves in. Everything is still here.
On that question of how these places change through time, I know that a big part of your job, James, is dealing with that very question when we have kind of consents coming through the planning system on making changes to some of our most significant buildings. And I just wondered how you handle that. How does it work?
Well, Alison, it doesn't have to be significant buildings. We've got a very broad church, and you know, we will consider, or we do consider, listing is at category A, B, and C. We don't ourselves look at C listed. That's devolved to the council. But I think with interiors, we have a policy statement which gives us an overview and a steer, and then we have a series of guidance documents called Managing Change in the Historic Environment, and these are specified and focused on certain changes or alterations. And what we look at is, you know, what impact is that going to make to the significance of the listed building. But they say what they do on the tin. It's managing change, so it's not stopping things. It's just trying to give us all a nudge that you should think about things like words like balanced approach and being proportionate, and you know, thinking about what is special about this place. What are the things that I'm experiencing and understanding and enjoying, and you know, those would be the things that I would look to retain.
Excellent. I guess, yeah, you're totally right. It's working with what makes the building, interesting and characterful, and really playing to its strengths. We've had another question through from some other members from Historic Environment Scotland asking, do we have favourites and why? Which is your favourite interior, James, from the exhibition?
Probably, well, it might not be that. I just love High Sunderland.
Uh-huh.
So, I've kind of it's quite interesting. I was not a huge modernist fan, When I was growing up, I was all about, I grew up in the 80s when chintz and postmodernism was all on the go, and I was very into my historic Georgian buildings. But actually, experiencing a building like this, which has been built to be functional, which has been crafted, which is very easy to use, multifunctional, in all these times now when we have a problem with space, I guess, and as you were alluding to in about all of us stuck at home with COVID-19 and our houses become gyms, schools, trying to make them multi-purpose. These type of buildings are great for that because they're very flexible, because they're open plan. But the beauty of this is it looks open plan, but actually when you start looking around, there's niches and there's little compartments, and like in the dining room that we just saw there. So it's kind of broken up as well. So it's very interesting. And the big thing? It's the light.
Lights,
amazing.
Yeah.
Floor to wall, floor to ceiling, big windows, and that permeability with the landscape. Landscape's almost come in, hasn't it?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'd have to say my favourite, as we've been going through all of them, all of the interiors are so distinctive and so curious and fascinating in their own ways. But one that has really grown on me is actually Gosford's, and it's absolute kind of overblown party venue, ridiculously silly over the topness, which I really enjoy. And again, on the issue of light, it's all this white stone that is just flooded with light, and it's so grand and would have been so incredible to have been in its heyday. So that's the kind of interior that you want to live at large in. So I think that's my favourite. I should say I think we'll probably have to wrap up fairly soon because we've run a little bit over, but we did have our technical glitch. But it's been really lovely. Otherwise, I really hope you all enjoy the exhibition. It's really fun to scroll around and really zone in on the different aspects of the interiors. So thank you for joining us. Thanks from me.
And thank you from me.
And tune in again for more.